Welcome back, and if you're here for the first time, I'm glad you've joined us. Some mysteries pass quickly, fading into statistics. Others refuse to let go. They linger in the back of your mind, creep into late-night thoughts, and return again and again with questions that never seem to find answers. Tonight, we dive into one of those cases. A story set in a place most people imagine as safe, almost idyllic, Cape Cod. Yet in the summer of 1974, its dunes became the stage for one of the most haunting unsolved murders in American history. A body left in the sand. A crime scene that seemed both brutal and carefully arranged. A victim who remains without a name, even decades later. This is the mystery of the Lady of the Dunes. Cape Cod stretches into the Atlantic like a hook. Its small towns, lighthouses, and dunes paint the picture of a postcard New England summer. Provincetown, at the very tip, is known for its art scene, fishing heritage, and a lively community that swells with tourists every summer. Bright houses line narrow streets, and the beaches draw both families and wanderers. But beyond the crowded boardwalks, the dunes expand into wide, almost empty spaces. Scrub pines bend against ocean winds, and silence dominates once you step off the beaten path. That silence is beautiful, but it's also isolating. In the 1970s, before today's surveillance and cell phones, it meant whole areas could stay unobserved for days, even weeks. And it was in this landscape, in July 1974, that the Lady of the Dunes was found. On July 26, 1974, 12-year-old Leslie Metcalf was walking home from Race Point Beach with her family. The afternoon was calm, the kind of Cape summer day that feels endless. A local dog trailed the group, weaving between them, restless and curious. At one point, the dog bolted ahead, barking furiously. Leslie ran after it through the sand and scrub. Just a mile east of the ranger station, she came across something she could never have expected. A human body, lying in the dunes. The woman was already decomposing. She was naked, placed on one side of a beach towel. Under her head rested a folded pair of jeans and a blue bandana. It looked, at first glance, like a scene of someone who had come to sunbathe. But the reality was much darker. The medical examiner noted she was about 5 feet 6.5 inches tall, around 145 pounds, and somewhere between 20 and 40 years old. She had been dead for at least 10 days. If fingerprints weren't possible, maybe dental work could help. The woman had extensive, expensive dentistry, unusual for the time. Experts described it as New York style. The work was distinctive enough that another dentist might have recognized it. So police launched a rare and ambitious effort. Details of her dental work were sent to every dentist in Massachusetts, published in dental journals, and shared with the FBI and Interpol. Yet no one came forward. Not a single match. How could someone with such expensive dental care vanish without anyone noticing? Over the years, the case refused to fade. The body was exhumed 3 times. In 1980, to take blood samples and create a facial reconstruction from the skull. In 2000, when a bone fragment was removed to test a possible lead. And in 2013, when improved DNA testing offered new hope. Despite each effort, no match was ever found. Decades later, the case caught the eye of Joe Hill, author and son of Stephen King. While watching a screening of Spielberg's Jaws, filmed in Cape Cod in the summer of 1974, Hill noticed something chilling. In one scene, an extra in the background wore jeans and a blue bandana, the same clothing found with the Lady of the Dunes. Could this have been her? Could she have been a visitor, drawn in by the excitement of a movie set, appearing on film just weeks before her death? Universal Studios couldn't confirm. Records of extras from that production were never kept, and the casting director had passed away. Hill himself admitted it might just be coincidence, but said, "If nothing else, it's a good ghost story." Another theory reached into Boston's underworld. James Whitey Bulger, the notorious mob boss later convicted of multiple murders, was said to have been in Provincetown at the time. As the years passed, the Lady of the Dunes became a magnet for confessions, many of them worthless. Among the most infamous was Haddon Clark, a convicted murderer serving 70 years for the killings of 2 women. Clark claimed that while living with his grandfather on Cape Cod in 1974, he lured a woman into the dunes. He said he struck her with a surf casting rod, retrieved a saw from his truck, and removed her hands. In a detail designed to horrify, he boasted of using some of her fingers as bait for fishing before burying the rest. On the surface, it sounded grotesquely plausible. But there was a problem. Much of what Clark described had already been printed in newspapers. He was recycling published details and twisting them into a personal performance. Investigators who looked deeper found no independent evidence tying him to Provincetown in 1974. Clark also had a record of false confessions. He had claimed responsibility for murders later proven unrelated. Forensic psychologists noted that some serial killers seek credit for crimes they never committed, as if their own violence isn't enough without adding extra infamy. Question for you. How should investigators treat confessions like these? Should every claim be tested, however thin, or should known liars like Clark be dismissed outright? Not all theories were so easily dismissed. One of the most compelling centered on Rory Gene Kesinger, a 25-year-old woman with a violent record. She had been arrested for bank robbery, and while awaiting trial, she allegedly tried to shoot a police officer with his own gun inside a hospital. In July 1974, just weeks before the Lady of the Dunes was discovered, Rory Gene escaped from Plymouth County Jail, directly across the bay from Provincetown. Her breakout sounded like something out of Pulp Fiction. Someone smuggled in a hacksaw blade. She sawed through her cell, tied together bedsheets, rappelled out a window, and slid. Over the years, weaker leads also crowded the investigation. In the 1980s, a psychic told Chief Jimmy Meads that the victim was a Canadian nurse named Carolyn or Marilyn O'Leary. Around the same time, another person reported a missing American nurse by the same name. For a brief moment, it looked like a real lead, but police tracked down Carolyn O'Leary, alive and well. The psychic's claim dissolved. Cases like this highlight the problem of noise in unsolved investigations. Every dead end consumes time, money, and hope. And the Lady of the Dunes became a magnet for exactly this kind of noise. Do you think psychic testimony should ever influence a case? Or should it be ignored entirely, no matter how desperate the search becomes? Despite the dead ends, not all was lost. Thanks to multiple exhumations, authorities still hold a surprising amount of physical evidence. The skull, ribs, the left and right scapula, a tissue sample from her leg and hair. For a 1974 outdoor homicide, this preservation is remarkable. It means that as forensic science advances, the Lady of the Dunes is not lost to history. She remains testable, her DNA a living thread connecting past to present. The most promising path today lies in genetic genealogy. If you followed the capture of the Golden State Killer, you know the technique. Upload an unknown profile to genealogy databases, find partial matches with distant relatives, build family trees, and trace the branches back to a name. This method solved crimes decades old, long after traditional police work had failed. And it could work here too. Authorities have already consulted with California DAs who helped crack the Golden State Killer case. The hope is that the same approach might finally give the Lady of the Dunes her name. Of course, this depends on privacy laws, consent, and whether any of her relatives have submitted DNA to consumer databases. But it's a path forward. And so the mystery remains. Was she a tourist who wandered into danger, a woman tied to organized crime, or someone who brushed against Hollywood for a fleeting moment before vanishing into legend? What do you think? Was there something missing from that elevator footage in Jaws? An extra whose face matches a composite sketch? Could the video itself have been edited, hiding a third figure just out of frame? Share your theories in the comments below. Do you believe the Lady of the Dunes will finally be identified through DNA? Or will this remain a story that Cape Cod carries forever? If you want to join me for more true crime investigations, don't forget to subscribe. And if you found this case as unsettling as I did, consider sharing it. Because sometimes, the smallest ripple of attention brings the biggest breakthrough. Until next time, thank you for watching, and stay curious.